Alright guys, welcome to my channel. Thank you for tuning in for another week's fat loss follow-up. This is the first time I say this week is only a follow-up because if you are talking about the fat loss progress, then my whole fat loss journey has already officially wrapped up in week 22. This is week 23, so obviously my weight has a substantially rebounded in this week. But it's also very interesting to observe just how my body was going to react after I've been in my linear state dating back to last Saturday, which I'm going to talk about in a moment. But anyway, as usual, before I reveal this week's fat loss follow-up, I'm still sort of tied myself to the fat loss update mindset for probably it's been too long, so it's a bit of not very familiar for me to talk about the follow-up. But anyway, there's still a lot of interesting information I can share with you in relation to this follow-up. Because if some of you guys are thinking, how can I keep my body fat level at about 6 to 7% for a very, very long time, for a very long duration, just to show everybody that I'm really shredded. I'm really like just freaking shredded all the time. Well, bad news. It's really difficult to maintain that. And that's the point for me to provide one more week's fat loss follow-up just for you guys to reference if you're still entertaining the idea of maintaining your body fat at 6 to 7% or even lower. There's a high chance that you're only going to be in that state for quite a few days, 1 week tops. That's how I think. Not every one of you is going to be Jeff Cavalier all year round, I can tell you that. But anyway, as usual, before I reveal this week's follow-up, please just give me a thumbs up, and also maybe just consider subscribing to my channel. It will mean a great deal to me as a small YouTube fitness creator. Thank you very much for your support. Alright, now I'm done with self-promotion. I know this is only a fat loss follow-up, but as usual, still need to put out the table there for you guys to reference in relation to what happened in this week. And like I just mentioned, on last Saturday, I have been my nearest state ever in my life. So last Saturday's morning weighing result, it was 72.7 kilos. And I can tell you guys for sure that when I was at 72.7 kilos, my body fat was only 6 to 7%. And let me just put out a photo there for you guys to reference visually what 6 to 7% body fat looks like, particularly from the backside. If you look at this photo, you're going to know that not only I have clear muscle separations, that's one thing, but on top of that, when flex hard enough, you guys are going to see striations as well. So that's something I want you guys to pay attention to. When you are really 6 to 7% body fat, when you flex, you're going to see the muscle fibers striations clearly. Whereas if you are 8 to 10% body fat, as I'm going to talk about in a moment, you can still see very clear muscle separations, but very, very difficult for you to see the muscle fibers, the striations, if your body fat is around about 8 to 10% body fat. So that's probably the clear difference between this 6 to 7% and 8 to 10%, in my opinion. So anyway, last Saturday, I was the leanest of my whole life. However, as I mentioned in the last video, I was only at this body fat percentage only for a day, because the next day, last Sunday, when I jumped on the scale again, as you guys can see in the table there has been a 0.9 kilo overnight weight rebound. So the body sees the slightest chance of the big dinner that I had on Saturday night and decided to store back some body fat, despite I've actually done 2 hours of hard cardio on last Saturday. So yes, I trained in the gym quite hard, and well, actually, this was in relation to what happened on last Sunday. But anyway, just want to re-emphasize what I just said. I've done 2 hours of hard cardio training on last Saturday, but still, what happened on last Sunday was there still has been a 0.9 kilo weight rebound. So like I said in the introduction of this video, if you guys are entertaining the idea of how to maintain this 6 to 7% body fat all year round, forget about this idea. It's not going to be achieved for 99% or even higher percentage of the guys out there. Because even for me, I've been training so hard, so frequently for the last, I think it's been more than a month. But still, if the if the incident did not take place in week 22, I would have never been able to really dip my body fat to 6 to 7%. So 6 to 7%, I only achieve that by serendipity. That's called serendipity. So if it's not for that incident, probably mission impossible for me to achieve 6 to 7%. And once I've achieved that, only lasted for a day. And the next day, boom, just rebound back to above 7% body fat. So don't think about you're going to be Jeff Cavalier all year round, even all month around. It's not going to happen. Just forget about the idea. 8 to 10%, you may entertain that if you train hard enough and also may control your diet stringently for some time. But 6 to 7% is really, really not a plausible idea for most people out there. But anyway, let's talk about what happened on last Sunday as well. So yes, last Sunday I actually trained myself in the gym at night, and this is something interesting also I want to mention. Actually, I was still performing quite well in the gym at night, and there was no energy issues. And this is something I think it's probably the feeling is going to be individual. When your body fat is below 10%, you're going to hear a lot of fitness influencers online talking about once you dip your body fat percentage below 10%, you're going to have a lot of energy issues or maybe other hormone issues and probably other issues, hunger issues as well. But for me, I have never seriously experienced this kind of a low energy, constant low energy, or like unable to push myself hard in the gym, or other issues like others have mentioned. But I do suppose that this kind of not feeling this negative downside of a low energy issue was attributed to me still consuming enough food quantities. So during the whole journey of this fat loss, the bulk of my caloric deficit was created by doing high volume cardio. If you guys reference all my previous videos, you're going to know that on a weekly basis, I pretty much maintain my weekly cardio volume at about 9 to 10 hours. So very high cardio volume, which enabled me to consume still normal quantities of food on a daily basis, which I think is probably the biggest reason why I've been able to avoid all these hunger issues, energy issues, and other issues if you go on a normal fat loss way just by reducing your food consumptions. So I do think there's a point to be made about if you really want to lose your body fat in a, I'm not going to say in a less in a less efficient or whatever. I'm not going to say that this is a better way, but just in my eyes, it is definitely a more enjoyable way. Let's put it, because you're not going to be haunted by this low energy and hungry and other issues due to this low food consumption. So that's just my opinion talking about how to create this caloric deficit. I'm definitely an opponent for creating the bulk of the caloric deficit by doing a higher volume cardio. But anyway, let's still stick to the point of this weight rebound, because if you just look at the table there, you're going to know that in the next few days, my weight just kept rebounding. So it went from 73.6 kilos on last Sunday to 74.3 kilos on this Tuesday. Then rebound again to this Thursday, 74.8. Sorry for that, 74.8 kilos. And then on Friday, another small rebound, 75.1 kilos. Now, bear in mind, because I was still sort of suffering from this tooth pain, the incident that I was talking about, because I was still suffering from this tooth pain. So actually, from last Saturday to this Friday, out of all these days, 2 main meals that I was having out of 3 main meals in a day, 2 main meals were actually only Greek yogurt and fruits. Very, very low calories densities, these 2 things, Greek yogurt and fruit. So actually, I was still sort of like in a, let's call it mild caloric surplus. I don't think it's even surplus, but it's just my caloric consumption was still very, very low from last Saturday to this Friday. But still, as you can see, the body didn't want to even wait to rebound to put on more body fat from this 6 to 7%. So once my body began to heal itself from this tooth pain and also the damage caused by the antibiotics, it just kept rebounding from 72.7 kilos to 75.1 kilos. this Friday. So the rebound, it was 2.4 kilos. So once again, if you guys are still thinking of this 6 to 7%, I want to be shredded all week around, all month around, all year round. No, it's not going to happen. For me, I was only shredded just for one day. And yeah, so this week's follow-up is a good example for you guys to reference if you're still entertaining the idea of this keeping just freakishly shredded. And something else I also want to talk about what happened just from Monday to this Friday was that actually I still maintained my cardio volume at relatively high volume. So if you do the tally up, I think my week 23's weekly cardio volume is still like 7 hours. So a bit less compared to the previous few weeks, probably reduced by 2 to 3 hours. But the difference, once again, was huge. Now the weight rebound, 2.3 kilos, if you compare that to like low caloric consumption and just still decent cardio volume, you're going to find that, well, this kind of weight rebound is really, really inexplicable. But in Mars, it's perfectly reasonable because it just proved to me that my body, for me, because I've reached this conclusion already in last few weeks' videos, that for me, despite, okay, so the hardest I can push my body to drive down the body fat is probably around about 8 to 10%. And also just in terms of body weight, one was at 8 to 10%, it's probably around about 75 kilos. So yeah, I'm not surprised at all that my body has chosen to rebound to 75.1 kilos by the end of this Friday. Just perfectly natural response of how my body is going to react when it is given the choice to when it is given the choice just to stay comfortable. So yeah, that's the point of this week's video. But something else I want to say is actually what happened on this Saturday. So actually this Saturday, I took a drive and went to the same location, the same beach that I was at on last Saturday, and there were some other photos taken, and it's quite interesting for me to show you guys the visual difference. Okay, so now I can produce actually photo reference for you guys to see visually what's the difference between 6 to 7% and 8 to 10%. So this Saturday, I was definitely around about 8 to 10% body fat. And the visual difference, one was at 8 to 10% body fat. From the front side, it was actually not that noticeable. And I'm actually going to put that photo there. So this is the photo of me on this Saturday. One was at about 8 to 10% body fat. And this was a photo of me last Saturday. One was about 6 to 7% body fat. So this is the front side. Some of you guys may even say that I looked leaner this Saturday compared to last Saturday. But that's definitely not the truth. But however, it's why I say that, because if I show you guys other two photos, you're going to definitely think that me on last Saturday was much leaner. This side is going to be, these two photos, they're going to be from the back side. So when I turn around, now this is the photo of me on this Saturday, 8 to 10% body fat, and this is the photo of me last Saturday, 6 to 7% body fat. See what I mean? In this photo on last Saturday, I definitely look much crispier and much leaner with muscle striations, as I've just mentioned. Whereas here, you can still see clear muscle separations, but if I flex hard, it's difficult for you to detect the muscle striation, muscle fibers there. So that's the difference between 6 to 7% body fat and 8 to 10%. Photo proof. On the front side, it's probably not so noticeable, but still I can tell you that on last Saturday at 6 to 7% body fat, my obliques were a bit more pronounced. However, this Saturday, I dare say that my abs, my six-pack abdominal muscles, they look a bit more pronounced. So it may create an illusion that, okay, from the front side, this week, the 8 to 10% body fat looks leaner visually on the front side, but make no mistake about it. Definitely I was leaner on last Saturday. So Yes, that's what I want to talk about the visual difference, 6 to 7% and 8 to 10%. However, something else I want also interesting I want to mention is we're actually recording this video on Sunday. So yes, actually I took another morning weigh in this morning. So Sunday morning weigh in was 74 kilos. So there has been a 0.8 kilo weight dip. Probably as I said, the body prefers to stay like within 74 to 75 kilos. So when it was 74 kilos, it's probably like 8%. When I was at 75 kilos, it's probably like closer to 10%. But anyway, this is the comfortable zone that my body finds itself in for the last few weeks. And yeah, that's all I want to talk about the follow up of week 22. Still, as you can see, a lot of interesting information for me to share with you guys. And actually, I've got more interesting insight, let's call it, to share with you guys. And I'm actually preparing another video. Let's just call it and like some some key lessons or key rules that I've learned from my last 22 weeks. Now it's 23 weeks now. So 5 essential key rules. That's what I'm thinking about. I want to distill from the last 23 weeks, and I'm going to produce that video in the next week. So stay tuned for the key lessons I've learned along this fat loss journey. All right, that's all I want to talk about for a week 22 fat loss follow-up. Please don't forget to give me a thumbs up and also subscribe to my channel. Thank you very much for your support, and I will see you guys in another week's time.